Hey there! Welcome to the Flute 360 podcast. I'm Dr. Heidi K. Begay, and I'm a flutist, educator, coach, and podcaster. My God-given mission is to serve you. I am passionate about guiding you, the modern-day flutist, to discover your unique voice on and off the stage. The goal of this podcast is to help you thrive, both as an artist and as a musicpreneur. Go ahead and grab your espresso, your favorite notepad, and let's get to it. Today's episode is episode 326, and it's titled Creative Flow and Strategic Planning with Eric J. Begay, Part 8. Hey there, Flute 360er. Wherever you are in your flute journey, whether you're expanding your studio, dreaming of a concert tour, or brainstorming what's next, I want you to know you don't have to do it alone. Inside the Flute 360 coaching bundle, I don't hand you a one-size-fits-all plan. Instead, I meet you exactly where you are, and we customize the tools to help you move forward with clarity and confidence. You might walk away with a plug-and-play student recruitment email, a social post to fill your next workshop, a grant proposal template for your big idea, or a step-by-step planner for your upcoming recital or course launch. You won't get everything. You'll get exactly what you need. I've helped flutists launch albums, secure grants, build studios, and rediscover their joy. And now it's your turn. There are only 10 coaching spots this spring. Book yours by April 30th, and let's take that next step together. Click the link in the show notes to get started. Well, we are starting this episode off loud and strong. Eric and I have tested and retested to record, re-record, and apparently third time is the charm. So we are starting off this podcast episode a little differently. I have here my wonderful, amazing, talented, intelligent husband, and we are going to wrap up this lovely podcast series all about the creativity and the creation process. So thank you, Eric, for being here. It's so good to see you. Hi.
Hi. I see you every day.
I know. I say that because...
Well, you don't see me behind a mic every day. Yeah.
That, and we are working from home together. We are working on these businesses together. But it's like we see each other in the morning at 9. We see each other at 6 for dinner. And then we're whizzing by each other between calls, clients, students, recording, and then to sit down and say, hi, husband.
And wrangling in screaming cats.
Yes. So before we get into the creative process, before I pick your brain on this series, because You're the editor, you've been listening to the actual content this entire month, just a little life update. Eric and I are dealing with 4 crazy cats. One of them is marking his territory, and it is boggling mine and Eric's brains. We are buying urine remover sprays, no mark sprays, pheromone plugins. It is a life and a wonderful life that we lead. But he's been a handful for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely getting old.
Yeah.
Really fast.
So I just start that off because it's a little different. I don't get to talk much about life here at the Begay house, but this morning was extra special with a huge storm that blew through Dallas. Cats were upset. Cats are marking stuff when they're stressed out. Then Eric and I get stressed because we're picking up and cleaning up pee. Go off to lessons and clients and recordings, and then it's like, oh, we've got 45 minutes. Sit down and quick, let's record. And so that's life. And I actually like showing you, the listener, this peek into my world because I know you empathize and I know you understand. And somehow, in the midst of storms and urine problems from cats and the messiness of life, you can still carve out time to create. You can still calm the storm by saying, stop, pause, wait, hold on. I want to have this conversation with this person. I can pull out my easel. I can pull out my flute. I can say I'm carving out time, even if it's 30, 40 minutes for me to pause, stop, reflect, create, get my hands onto my project. You have that capability and air quote control to set up those healthy parameters and do your thing, right?
Excellent. Yep. Definitely you can make time and pause and do it. It's a matter of disconnecting. And you know that there's things that need to be done all the time. Things need to be done all the time. But if you really want to make something happen, you have to make the time to do it. And you and I, actually, the beginning of this year, have implemented some new things in the business. And it has been difficult to stick to that schedule, especially when you have to work in between all that too.
Mm-hmm.
So between meetings, and it's funny, you and I have a meeting and we really treat it like a real meeting.
Yeah.
Like we put husband and wife Heidi aside and we do meetings like we're running like CEO meetings. We're
9 a.m. every day.
Yeah. It's still new,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know why we haven't been doing that for a long time already.
Isn't it the best change we've ever done for our business?
Well, we've come up with crazy ideas and we're trying to make them happen.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. That's for sure. That's the real part. The part about being real with you is it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
We are in over our heads sometimes, but we try to make time for it.
Yeah.
And then there's all kinds of challenges, money challenges with it. Like, oh, we have to do this. We have to do that. It costs money to do things. And even more importantly is time. Where do we find the time to even do it? If you can find the money, do you even have the time? It seems like the time outweighs the money at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go to that because you just said something that's amazing. And speaking of letting our listeners come into and having this peek into our world, you highlighted something that we have implemented and done something different, and that is changing up and mixing up our schedule. So you said we are implementing a new meeting time. It's a daily routine. We're sitting in that CEO chair together, and we're not even bringing Heidi and Eric things to the table. Like when we sit down at my desk every morning, we are talking business stuff. And so we started with this new routine because Eric and I wanted to get on the same page in order to really sail the ship forward towards one destination. And Eric and I felt very spread thin, a little spread thin, and we were burning our candle from 10 different ends. So we said, stop, pause, let's talk about the business, get on the same page. So when we move into creative projects, like putting new product services and offerings into our businesses and their business suites, whether it's Flute 360, Red House, or J&K, we are actually tackling one creative project at a time. We can focus, we can double down, and by doing that, we're more likely to finish and track the results and then move from there based on numbers, observations, etc. So with that being said, let's take 10 steps back. With that new implementation of that meeting, what are some of the things, since we're wrapping up this creative series and how to create in the creative process? There are many adults like you and I who are parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, students, performers alike, who come into the Flute 360 world saying, Heidi, I don't have the time. I don't have the money. And you highlighted that with your response. So because we're running multiple businesses, you highlighted beautifully earlier, you're like, we're doing something new. We are carving out an extra meeting. Where are we going to find that time? We made it happen. We put it down to make it a priority to say we need to get on the same page for our businesses to move forward. And by taking that step, we are realizing, okay, if we want to create this course, if we want to create this transformation for our people, we need to get on the same page. What has been the biggest aspect or the biggest benefit for you from your side of things by scheduling this extra business meeting every day, 5 days a week? How has that helped you? What benefits have you seen with our creative process as CEOs? And anything that you want to comment on with just this new change?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I find very important about this was you hear entrepreneurs and anybody who's anybody in the business world talking about it on podcasts or in books. They talk about the intention of this process. And they always make the analogy of like a ship. You have a ship, just like you have to work to make money or to make anything happen. You have to put in the time somewhere to make something happen. Just like that ship has a motor and is running, it's going somewhere. And you have to create that destination, which is the meeting, why we have the meeting, the plan of where we want that ship to dock.
Mm-hmm.
The destination, that is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get there? Through the plan, making that happen. They always make that analogy. It could be a plane, it could be a ship, it could be whatever. But the point is you have to have that meeting to make the plan so that you can dock that ship somewhere and execute your goal. And that's the implementation of the meetings that we had. And we've covered a lot of ground since like the first 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We said, we need to do this. And then we learned that there were multiple other things. There's different layers of what we were trying to do. And we basically bought into a huge project altogether. So that is the nature of the business, I guess. I mean, I'm learning still, but that's what happened is you have to have the meetings to have the plan, that intention. And that was my biggest takeaway was I was doing work and there's always work to be done for our clients, but at some point you want that work to scale. And that's the reason why we're having the meetings, because we want that work to scale. We want to build things around it so we are not spending too much time always just doing the task that require our time and attention to it.
Constantly putting out the fires.
Yeah, we're trying to build something that will be self-sufficient or be passive in kind of a way, in a very small way, kind of passive, very hands-off, and it can take care of itself. That's what we were working on. And that requires a lot of time. That's what I learned from this whole thing together was we needed to do this, and we probably needed to do it a long time ago, but it's better late than never.
Yeah, very true. And so if you, the flutist, are listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, that's great, Heidi and Eric, like you're telling us about your new routine, things like that. But and you're talking about business, you're talking about business skills, you're talking all this business jargon. But what is that and how does that benefit me? How does that affect me? I'm not a business person. And you know what I'm going to say. This is one of my massive soapboxes of this show is I want to help your voice be artistically fulfilled and financially fulfilled. And that means when I say in the opening credits of, hey guys, like I want to amplify your voice on and off the stage, I'm talking about on the stage for you to feel artistically free so that way your creativity and your flute voice can shine. You can do that until, the cows come home. But how are you going to feed those cows? Off the stage, I want to amplify your voice in terms of your career and making money and having different streams of income. So the two go hand in hand. One of my pillars or one of my things that I want to nick in the butt in this industry is this starving artist mentality. So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, that's Heidi and Eric, they're having business meetings. Okay, how does that affect me? And like, I can't apply that to my world. Yes, you can. We're giving you a peek into our musicpreneur world behind the scenes so you can get a glimpse and see, oh my gosh, like that's approachable. And that, Heidi and Eric are normalizing these conversations so that way it's easy and it's within fingers reach for you. So you can start grabbing a few of these nuggets and putting it into your flute studio, putting it into your flute courses, putting it into your flute concert tour, and finding ways to bring these bad boys and these amazing projects to life, not just from this creative aspect, because I know you, the 360er. You can create curriculum and lesson plans all day long. But it's not good enough if you're just creating to create and you're not thinking of the marketing and the sales and getting it out there. So full circle back to Eric's ship analogy, you need to have a plan. You need to think not just colors and storytelling through your flute, but also figures, dates, times, financial roadmap, financial planning, etc.
Right.
They go hand in hand.
Right.
So when you hear that, I see your eyes lighting up.
Right.
What are you thinking? Because I can see the wheels in your head turning.
Well, it is something as simple as planning every hour of your day.
Okay.
I know that when we started this, the very first thing you did was you brought up the daily routine, Ben Franklin schedule.
Yeah.
And you said from this time to this time, we're waking up, we're having our coffee, do whatever you do to wake up. From here to here, you can look at your emails. 9 o'clock, meeting time. 9 to maybe 11 or 12 is meeting. And then after that, you could take care of your work. And then at 6 o'clock, we stop and we have dinner and we do whatever we need to wrap up the day.
Yeah.
And we didn't deviate from that when we started it. We had to change some things around when we knew that our responsibilities got bigger. But the idea of just that right there is one small thing that you could do to understand where your time is being spent and how you need to change maybe some things in order to execute your goal. If you're not making your time for your goal, then how are you going to even get it started or even finish it?
Yeah.
And also, you are one of those kinds of people who like to write down everything. So on your app, on your phone, your list app, your reminders app, you have a running list of all the ideas that you have throughout the day. Even if they come to you in a random fashion, you write them down. You're saying this goes to this goes to that. And they're different parts of your life, but you're always writing something down. When you open up your app, you open up your calendar, it looks crazy. It looks, to me, it's a colorful mess because every task or list is color coded, but it's not crazy. It's actually very organized. It's like a beautiful mind, the movie with all the numbers flowing. It really is, because when you look at your goal, everything has its place. Everything is in nice, beautiful order, just the way Heidi does things. And so if you're not writing down something as simple as, I'm going to write one paragraph a day for this book I'm writing, I'm going to create one lesson plan for my class every day. If you're not figuring out, like, even if it's not perfect, but you're creating something, you're getting to that, you're making strides, you're putting those miles in on that task, on that goal, you're going somewhere with that. If you're not making the time and writing it out, saying this is what I'm going to do, you're never going to move forward with it.
Yes.
And so, because of the daily routine task and then marking every hour, what are you doing in that hour? And if you want to be crazy like Heidi, you say the first 15 minutes, you have to do this. The second set of 15 minutes, you have to do this. This is how crazy this woman is. No, I'm serious. It really is that way. And this is how you make things happen. You have to write out and organize it, kind of like a bracket saying this, and this. All have to be done within this amount of time. And then even if it's not perfect, just get it done. And then tomorrow you might be able to refine it. But you have to get all this information packed in first, and then refine it later. Just like this course that we're building. We're saying, write the script. The script is written. Okay, now the script is perfect. Okay, we have to record it. Okay, we have to get all the slides ready. We recorded got all the text for the slides in. Videos edited. Boom, it's all put together. It needs more work. But hey, this is the minimal viable product. This can go out if it needed to, but we're going to refine it later. Everything is refine it later, but you have to get the job done. And if you're not doing that, you might not get there.
Yes. I love all of it. Well, thank you for your very sweet, kind words. I appreciate it. And to kind of piggyback off of Heidi's crazy color-coded system, I want to chime in with that real quick. It reminds me of a conversation that I had with an amazing flutist and teacher at the Carolyn Nussbaum booth and her table a few summers ago at NFA. I believe it was Phoenix, and we drove out to Phoenix with flutes in tow and all of that. And it was a great time. And Carolyn was so sweet to dedicate a corner of her booth for Flute 360 guests, conversations with you, the listeners, and bringing the community together. One of these flute teachers and I, we got to talking about the creative process. And I told her a little bit of what you just highlighted: systems, bracketing out certain time frames for times to create, times to have and wear one hat at a time. And I know you, and so I just wanted a disclaimer around what Eric just said in case you don't know Eric's like way of expressing and his humor. When he says Heidi's crazy system, he means that literally, but at the same time with a lot of love. And what he's saying is yes, it may seem crazy, and it may seem, and for you, the listener, you may hear that as limiting. But Eric knows, I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Eric, but I think you also know, like, even though it may seem, air quote, crazy, it may seem restrictive because there's boxes, it really isn't then. It's not restricting in the sense of, oh, you're doing from 9 to 10 this and only this. I think the creative artists, like this teacher at the exhibitor booth, when they hear that, they are deer in headlights. They totally freeze and they halt and they go, that's not for me. I am lady with hair in the wind. I am a free spirit. I'm a free bird. I go where the wind takes me. And circling back to the NFA booth, so you see that I'm not cuckoo and I have a point to this. We were talking about scheduling and mapping things out and having a plan. And she was totally like, it was unattractive to her. She pulled back and she was like, ew, gross. No. I'm like, no. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have, she heard, I think, in her colorful mind as an artist, I think she heard black and white.
Right.
But the black and whiteness, the parameters, the time frame, the time slots that I'm giving myself, because I have those healthy guardrails up around my time, my energy, and my money, I then can be free within those parameters.
Okay.
So what ends up happening is I think most creatives are like, I want to be struck with inspiration at any given moment. And when I am, I'm going to sit down and write that book.
Right.
It will never happen. Why? I mean, it could. Never say never. It will never happen because you're waiting for inspiration to strike, but life is going to happen around you.
Right.
So what could happen is your inspiration for that book, that recording, that whatever, will take a massive back burner. It will get pushed down the list because your cat's peeing around the entire house and marking its territory. There's a storm. Your kid threw up. There's an emergency. Your car needs a new tire. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
And then that inspiration dwindles and goes away and it gets minimized.
Right.
But if you say, no, from 9 to 10, I'm doing morning pages.
Right.
The book club and I in the accelerator program, we read a book. This author, her first name is Julia, and I think it's called The Artist's Way. I'll have to look at the title. But there's morning pages, and she dedicates time to say, this is my creativity time where I get to dump.
Right.
I get to, we're looking at Lexi. She's doing crazy things around the computer, and Eric's checking the recording. See, we're in the middle of creation. We're in the middle of conversation, and still life is happening around us. So there's things and elements of life, and it can be messy. And when I say messy, it's a good thing and just the way life is. But your creations, your strike of inspiration will happen, yes. But if you keep limiting yourself and saying, oh, I'm only going to create when motivation and inspiration strikes me, then your creations have the possibility of really not coming to life because you're not putting up the guardrails of your time of saying 9 to 10, I do morning pages like the Julia book. 10 to 11, I'm going to map out and like refine the process and get through the weeds, like what you're saying with the script and refine the script. And then if you don't have something in place and you have hard deadlines on the calendar, you run a major risk of your creations never going out into the world.
Right.
So I just wanted to piggyback off of, in case anybody's new to the show, in case anybody's new to our relationship, in case anybody's like, oh, so Heidi has this crazy schedule, and if I'm not like this soldier and this commander around my time and energy, I can't have fun. No, because I am, air quote, crazy about my time, I'm being very streamlined with putting my energy and my thoughts and ideas into pockets.
Right.
Everything has its own place.
Right.
And if I know where these thoughts, ideas are for I'm writing 3-4 things right now.
Yep.
I have a holistic medicinal book that I'm writing. I'm revamping an entire course for Red House. I'm creating a Flute 360 recital. And I have another book on infertility that I want to do someday. But I have 2 books, a class, and a recital that are being created right now as we speak.
Yeah.
So they have to go in pockets. They have to go on lists. They have to go into this air quote crazy system, because then when I sit down at that carved time from say 11 to 12 before lunch to create, those ideas are waiting for me. Those ideas can be structured. Those ideas can be put into an outline. And then I can fully feel like I'm wearing my author hat, my performer hat, etc.
Right.
So I just wanted to give somebody that backstory and that context of like what that process looks like for me, because I know where you are. I've spoken with many flute teachers and performers at NFA, and that one in particular at Carolyn's booth, she was like, I don't have the time to create. I can never get to my stuff. And then when I suggested, blocks of time, she heard black and white. I just know it. And I was like, no. It could be black and white, but within the black and white, there's color.
Right.
So I just wanted to speak to that artist who may feel very similar to that particular flutist as well.
Right. I think.
Does that make sense? Does that help?
No, it does. I mean, for the longest time, you always imagine when you're going to create something, you romanticize the idea of having it perfect. You have a candle, you have the light in the room just right.
Yeah.
And you're going to create, you sit down and it's just not coming. It's like that one scene in Seinfeld when Jerry and George are going to write their pilot.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there and they're like, what do we do? And they're sitting there with a notebook and they're
staring at each other.
Yeah. And they don't know what to do. So they go to lunch.
Yeah.
Because the creativity is not there. It's just, there's no magic. That's why they walked away. Yeah. But anyways, some people think that that's how creativity is.
You have to get the environment just right.
Yeah.
You have to be in the right mood and the right feeling.
And I'm one of those kinds of people who don't like to write things down. I always think that I can remember it in my mind. But these days I have too many things to do and too many responsibilities. Writing down something is very important right now. Mm-hmm. I at least have sticky notes, virtual sticky notes all over my desktop where I have little bits of information, even if it's just an acronym. It reminds me of what I need to do. Mm-hmm. And those are like tasks that need to be done by the end of the day or within the next day or two. Mm-hmm. And so that's what some people think creativity has to be, is this romantic idea of like the right time, right setting, right lighting, the cup of tea, and everything's perfect. Quiet. Yeah. But the reality is it's never like that. It could be happening as you're taking a car ride.
Yep.
Heidi has wonderful ideas during a car ride when I'm driving her somewhere. She's being chauffeured to the grocery store and she's like on her phone writing down notes. What are you doing? She goes, I'm writing ideas for my book. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. So that's the reality of it. That's all I wanted to draw out, is just that it's never a romanticized scenario.
I'm glad you said that, because I don't think you know this about me. So I get to share something with you. And that is, when I'm looking for that perfect environment and perfect timing to podcast, to write the chapter of the book, to paint, to draw. I like to sketch, by the way, guys. I love to sketch. When I'm looking for that perfect time that you described earlier, and it doesn't come, do you know what I have to mentally tell myself? Heidi, you are romanticizing this perfect creativity time, and it's not going to come. You can still create in this mess. Even if it's 30 minutes, make some sort of headway. Even if it's one chapter, even if it's 1,000 words, you did something. Because and I've expressed this before, I'm a very all or nothing type of girl. And I know that can really backfire against me if I'm not careful, because it's not sustainable. It's not practical. And what I mean by that is saying all or nothing is like, sometimes I tell myself in my head, and it's a lie, if I can't sit down for the next, and Eric knows, and I say this and it sounds very dramatic and I'm being over the top with this, but it really is that severe in my head. if I can't sit down and write for the next 8 hours, then I might as well not do anything at all. Who has time to sit down for 8 hours straight uninterrupted? You'd have to go into like a log cabin in order to do that. But so I reel myself in, and I had this inner dialogue of saying, now, is that practical? Can you really do that? No. But what can you do right now? Right. Well, I can do 30 minutes. Okay, that's better than nothing. And then I kind of like go back and forth and kind of compromise and find that middle ground just to get something on the paper, because I know once that ball is in motion and I see the momentum of the ball pick up, then I'm more likely to finish the thing because I'm excited, because I see the progression of that project. But starting for me is the hardest part, and mostly because full circle back to this, perfect environment to create. I'm waiting for that moment. It never comes. And so I just have to throw the ball in the mess, in life's mess, and say, you're starting, you're ripping out that page and you're getting pen to paper now, because it's never going to happen for that distinct moment that you're looking for.
Yeah. There was this image I saw on Facebook about consistency and being excited to do something. And it was like on a graph.
It starts and then it does a fall
And it was
off.
this big, imagine a ball bouncing, and the inspiration was like a real big bounce, a huge leap. And then it started to fizzle out. Kind of like if you see a ball bouncing down the road, it gets big leap, but smaller.
Yeah.
But then consistency was equal increments of a ball bouncing. Mm-hmm. And it was consistent. It was like the same amount of time, the same amount of space apart. Mm-hmm. And it was like a consistent jump to the next bounce. And it lasted longer. Mm-hmm. And that was being consistent. So being consistent means doing something at the same time every time with the same amount of vigor and inspiration, opposed to being fully inspired and excited about something and then it fizzles out because life happens and things fall apart.
So what I'm hearing is systems.
Yeah. It's a system that you build in, and that's what this planning out your day is. Every hour is accounted for of how you're spending your time. Every minute is accounted for of how you're spending your time almost. And so then you know how much output you have in you to get to fit into that.
I love that.
And then that way you know how much to dedicate to certain areas, how much of your energy to put in certain areas.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important takeaways to plan that out. If you haven't done it already, put that in your life in some fashion. Even if it's smaller amounts of time, maybe from 8 in the morning to maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you really, really plan that time out. But after that, you can do something different with it. Heidi tends to want to dominate the world. So she'll plan out every hour, 24 hours, even the time to sleep. Funny story is with that Ben Franklin system, we attempted it the first week and we're like, we can't do this. This is crazy. Yeah. And so then we're like, I wonder what Andrew Jackson's schedule was. Was it Andrew Jackson or was somebody else? And John Adams. I wonder what John Adams' schedule was like.
So what Eric was talking about is we tried beginning of the new year, 2025. We're like, we got to get on the same page. If we want to be consistent with our creations and consistent and get on the same page with our businesses, we need some sort of we need a better, well-oiled machine. So we came across Benjamin Franklin's schedule. And Benjamin Franklin actually promotes like waking up at 5 and his day starts at 7. We tried that for a couple of weeks and we were like tired, and I am not a morning person at all. And so one morning or one afternoon when we were really fighting this afternoon, slump because we wanted to take a nap really bad, we were like, maybe we need to forget Benjamin Franklin and look at some other presidents, see what they have.
I think I said John. When you look at the John Adams schedule.
Let's see what John Adams was doing. Maybe his is more approachable. But from the ears and the perspective of, again, somebody hearing this and hearing like Heidi's planning out every minute of every hour. Yes. And I want you to also know, take it with a grain of salt, I am allowing myself massive flexibility also. So there is structure, but I give myself flexibility and gentleness when I'm not feeling great, when life happens and there is a real emergency, and that takes a higher priority to my schedule. So I don't want anybody hearing this with ears of going, oh my gosh, Heidi's so rigid. This is insane. Nobody can, match this. I can barely half match my own standards half the time, and the parameters I set up for myself. But I know that it's there, it's a system. And if I need to be flexible and adapt around it, I give myself that gentleness to do that because I'm a human. You're a human. We're not robots. So that's the perspective I also want to lend you. So that way you can see both sides of the coin.
Very nice.
And you do see, I think, hopefully I'm not sounding too defensive, but hopefully you do see that gentleness come in and that flexibility come in when things go awry.
Oh, I know it's forgiving only because there are many times where Heidi will send or create a lofty goal. And by the end of the day, we have to amend that goal into something different because it was too big.
Yeah.
So we have to remember, we have to take bite-sized bites out of this rather than trying to eat the whole cow at once. So it really does happen. And be forgiving to yourself. There's always another day to restart and to amend that schedule in any way you can.
I love that. Yeah. Bite-sized pieces. I often tell my students, and the flute teachers out there can really grab a hold of this analogy. And I know you guys give this example all the time to your kiddos. And that is, you would never try to fit an entire steak in your mouth. Why? Why not? Because you are going to choke. And that's ridiculous. You would cut it up with a steak knife and chew it one bite at a time. Just like the Mozart concerto, just like, Prokofiev, anything that's on your stand, you're going to do in chunks. And so when you do it in chunks, it's manageable to swallow rather than trying to cram the whole thing down your throat. But this has been fun to talk about the creative process and creation. And I really appreciate you editing the series. And thanks for coming in and giving a glimpse into our world of how we're creating together as co-business owners and as partners, and how we ride those waves on a daily and weekly basis.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
It was a lot of fun to talk about that. And thank you for all the work that you do through Flute 360.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. I want you to know something. Your flute journey is unique, and so is the support you deserve. When you join the Flute 360 coaching bundle, we don't follow a cookie cutter template. We co-create a path based on your goals, your season, and your strengths, with tools that fit you. Depending on what you need, I might hand you a personalized studio growth email, social copy for a project launch, tour planning tools, or a clear outline to pitch your next creative grant. You don't get everything. You get exactly what will help you right now in this particular season. And I'll be right there beside you to guide the process every step of the way. Let's talk about flute.